Welcome to episode 207 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined as always by Kyle Springer.
Hello, hello, and good morning. How are you? How's your weekend?
It's been fine. It's been intense. I went to see Maverick yesterday in IMAX.
Oh, how was it? Was it good? Do I need to go see this? I kind of have FOMO of like, should I go see this? Still from that like Mission Impossible thing, and this is so similar of just like big stunts, all that stuff.
I say yes.
You say yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. I've been thinking about signing up for the like Regal version of Movie Pass. They're hanging there, so maybe I might go see that then. Wow, you went to go see Top Gun. Okay. I've had a big old Bob's Burgers weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was your highlight.
It was. We went to go see the Bob's Burgers movie this weekend, and that was also a lot of fun. It was very, very good. If you enjoyed the show, I highly recommend it. And then a while back, I got my girlfriend the Bob's Burgers cookbook. And so we picked out one of the burgers and we made them for dinner last night. We nailed it. We made some amazing food. It was the best way to describe it is like a Hawaiian burger, but it's like a guava jelly barbecue sauce with pineapple and bacon on it and stuff like that. It was fantastic. It was so good. So,
what was the pun name?
50 ways to leave your guava burger.
Okay.
So, yep. Indeed. But it's been good. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice. Today, we are here to talk about season 2 of Fringe. We are continuing our monthly ongoing series, watching all 5 seasons of the show until we will be done in July, I think.
Yeah, sometime this summer.
Mm-hmm.
We did the first season last month. That was a good one. I like this show, and I like how strong season 1 starts. So if you have not checked out that one yet, go check out season 1, our coverage on season 1, and then come back here to season 2, and we'll be back next month for season 3 and so on. But yeah, so and this is always awkward when we do these like multi-long season things of like how do we do the intro? How do we do this? Do we do a recap? Do we do a synopsis? How do we want to catch people up on this one to where we are here?
If you've randomly clicked on this, Fringe was a like 2008, 2009 procedural network TV show about an FBI division that solved mysteries doing with fringe science, like weird sci-fi concepts, like X-Files if it was nothing supernatural or paranormal and just the sci-fi stuff.
Exactly.
And we've gotten into the parallel universes. That's the main tenet. That's the thing that drives the plot in this series. In this season, we find out one of the characters is from another dimension. He was just straight stolen from Dimension 2. Didn't know it his whole life. We cross over there. There are psychic powers. There are visions. You go through portals.
There's alternates and walternates and all sorts of stuff.
There's a musical episode.
There is.
There's a lot to discuss in season 2.
There is. Yeah. This is the interesting season. This is where so my kind of overall thoughts on the show in general is that it starts out really strong in season 1, and then kind of season 2 and 3 and even season 4 kind of flounder a bit, in my opinion. And so we're just getting the start of that in season 2.
Mm.
But then by the end of the show, season 5, I think it ends strong.
Good.
I know not everyone shares that same opinion, but I really liked where it went and where it did all of that stuff and wrapped everything up. But yeah, season 2 is good. If you like the show, if you like procedurals and you just kind of want more of that, season 2 delivers. It gives exactly that. But like I said, I think this is also where it starts to flounder a bit. And it just kind of, it's like, okay, it seems like wheels are just spinning and that's it. And not necessarily going places.
I think there's a this is a season that moves the plot mythology forward a lot and does a lot for the characters. Scattered throughout the season, there's these one-shot monster of the week, literal monster of the week episodes that aren't that exciting, but all of them will have at least one really valuable character building moment. I think that is one of the strengths of this show.
Exactly what
as
I was about
big
to
as
say.
the plot goes, it's got a fairly small, tight core cast of characters and does so much with them. That is where the heart of the show is.
Absolutely. It's fantastic characters that, yeah, despite maybe things starting to flounder as I keep using that word, just you know, going nowhere. The characters are so fascinating and so fun to watch that it almost doesn't really matter all that much. It's a good show. I highly enjoy it, highly recommend it. Season 2, well, so end of season 1, we do kind of find out that one of the characters is from another universe. They all but say it in that one. It's hinted so much you can kind of put 2 and 2 together, but here in season 2 they say it, they start to deal with it, and that is kind of one of the main things here. They're no longer really investigating the pattern like they were in season 1, but what is this alternate dimension? What exactly is this thing? How do we get there? And so that's kind of the focus of season 2 here. So good stuff.
Yeah, and it leads us, the finale is a real cliffhanger, where you can kind of see where season 3 is going to go, but you don't know to what degree. It's very, very stressful finale this season.
Indeed. Good stuff. So do you have more like final thoughts for spoiler free stuff for season 2 that you want to toss in there?
I want to say something I definitely want to talk about this episode, because we didn't mention it in the first episode of our coverage on the show, is the Peter and Olivia romance, because there's not a lot happening in season 1. They call the shot in like the pilot episode where Walter's just gotten out of the hospital. His brain's really just mush. Like he's having such a hard time remembering anything. Brand new things aren't sticking to him. And he meets Olivia and he's like, oh, this must be Peter's girlfriend. And she's like, no, I'm an FBI agent. But like, you see what that is. They're calling the shot of this is the romance of the show. And they don't do a lot of it they don't do a lot else with that in season 1. They just put a pin in it for later, and season 2 is later.
They build the relationship in season 1, and then season 2 it starts to manifest a bit here. Because you have in season 1 you have that fake out of, oh, Olivia has a sister, and then Peter's kind of taking an interest in her sister, and then the sister kind of doesn't show back up in the show all that often, so maybe Peter should go back with Olivia. So there you go. Yeah, we do start to see a little bit more of the romance between them. I think one of the main cast but side characters, Astrid, I think she gets a little bit more screen time in this season. Still not main character, but it just is now, hey, she's part of the team. Like, she is there. She is a valuable member of the cast, and she's fantastic.
Yes.
So yeah, I love this show a lot. This is also the season where did they do it in? I don't remember if they did, but they start to do alternate versions of the opening credits. In this season, and I love them. I love it every time they do it. Or they have just like a 70s version of it, or here's the alternate universe version of it, or stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I had a blast watching season 2.
It's a good time. Head to your local HBO Max and check it out.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we will take a quick break for housekeeping, and when we get back, we will dive into spoilers of season 2 and talk about all of the strange science that we saw here and the romance and all that
weird
stuff.
Science.
Weird science. Yeah. All right, we will be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and a thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/The Whatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you'd like to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. A big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting us. It means a lot. Helps us do what we do here at these shows. So yeah, we hope you enjoy all of the content that we make, and go check out our Patreon exclusive stuff. Melissa, you and I just recorded the Pilots Club for the Patreon exclusive podcast this month here. And we talked about Yasuke. It's in anime on Netflix, with a voice cast of Lakeith Stanfield as the main character. Ming-Na Wen is in there too. Some of the music is made by Flying Lotus. It's an interesting one, but it's the first anime that we've covered on the Pilots Club. That was interesting to talk about there on that one. But yeah, go check all that stuff out. Cool things that we've been up to here at the Whatnauts. It's Memorial Day weekend when we're recording this. So Crossplay actually took the weekend off. But we will be back soon as E3, I guess not E3 is happening. It's Summer Game Fest is happening, and there's going to be a bunch of conferences and showcases and stuff like that to announce new games and get trailers and gameplay and all that stuff. So we are excited about covering all of that, all the cool new shiny announcements. But on the captain's log, Melissa, you and I have been having a lot of fun. I've been checking out these hard Mountain Dew flavors. On each of them.
We're coming up on the season finale of Hard Mountain Dew.
Right, yeah.
This week you're going to drink the 4th of 4 flavors.
Indeed, and then we'll rank them all. Yeah, but yeah, that's been a lot of fun. We talked about this the very strange Winnie the Pooh horror movie. There's been lots of Star Wars news recently because it's been Star Wars Celebration this weekend as well. all sorts of fun stuff. On the reactor core, speaking of Star Wars celebration stuff, there was a new trailer for the Cassian Andor Star Wars show, simply called Andor. Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie, and he's in that one.
Wow, out of all of them.
Oh, yes, I love that one. That one's incredible. It's the one that feels most like a war to me.
That's true. Yeah, if that's your criteria, I understand why it wins. Yeah. Most war.
So they are making a show based off one of the characters in Rogue One to see a little bit more of his past and stuff like that. And they released the first teaser trailer to that, and it looks like my shit. And it looks really good, and I'm excited. But I did that trailer reaction all by myself. I tried like just to see how it went, because I've never done that stuff without someone like Melissa to like talk about it with. But I was just like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and see if I can do it. And I think for a trailer reaction, I'm okay to do those little smaller things. So who knows if I'll do more of those in the future? But it at least proved to myself I can do it. I don't need someone else there. I don't need you, Melissa.
You can take off the training wheels. You can bike around the neighborhood on your own.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, go check out all of that stuff. We also did a trailer reaction to the new Thor: Love and Thunder trailer recently.
Yeah.
The Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 trailer, which isn't even out until next year.
I got to see that trailer in IMAX, and that was very exciting.
Oh, man, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, so go check all that stuff out. That's on our YouTube page. So be sure to watch all that stuff. Go forth. Watch all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts. It is plentiful. But yeah, with that, let's get into spoilers. All right. Season 2 of Fringe. Here we are. Yeah, they finally confirm Peter is not of this world. He is from another universe.
Yeah, this is Peter 2 from Earth 2.
Yep. Apparently Peter 1 died when he was young. Got sick and died.
Very sad.
Yeah. That whole story is, I think, an incredible one. Like, this is a great like jumping off point for everything that's happened in this show of this scientist who's kind of a mad scientist, but then his son gets sick and he can't cure him, and the son dies. And so he goes even more full-on mad scientist to be like, well, what if there's an alternate dimension where they cured him, or they did this or that, and ends up just kidnapping a version of his son from another universe. And taking him back.
I love that journey that he goes on. Like, they've been working on this dimensional portal separate from his journey to cure his son. And he's found that he can like open this window in his lab and look through the window to the other version of him, his Walternate. And watch his Walternate try and save his own Peter. I love that they all get pun names.
The Walternate, yeah.
I love that that's his name. Like, the fans didn't do that. This is his character is like, I have a nickname for the other me. That is Walternate. He's like rooting for Walternate to save Peter too. And he like sees the cure work when Walternate's back is turned, and he's like, and by the time he turns back around, the vial of liquid turned the wrong color again, and now it looks to him like it doesn't work. And he's like, no, you've missed it. And he's like, I'll go over there. I don't know if I can cure the boy there, but I'll take the boy back to my lab here, and I'll cure him here, and then I'll bring him back. And he just that idea. He
Eventually,
tries to hold on to it, and he
misses-
cannot.
He misses
He's
his
like,
own son. Yeah.
right. I miss my Peter. My wife misses Peter. I'll just go get a different Peter. I'll bring him here. I'll cure him, and I'll just keep him for a while.
Yeah, just make sure he gets better, and
Yeah.
then make sure he grows up, and then maybe one day we'll
Right.
make sure he becomes a man. Make sure he lives happily ever after.
Right.
Yeah, so that is in just a fascinating plot beat, because then this is kind of ultimately what started everything that happened in season 1 too, where they make the ZFT to figure out where, because it's help me clear this up. So the ZFT manifest, their manifesto, right, was actually created by Walternate to find and get his son back. Is that right? Or
we know that.
Or is this our Walter who wrote this after kidnapping his son, realizing he's like, I fucked up, but not really willing to give it back. So yeah, there's a war coming. Because it could kind of work either way, where it's like, hey, my son got kidnapped, and Walternate's like, well, I'm going to write a very angry manifesto, and there will be war.
I'm going to put you in my burn book.
Right, yeah. Dear Death Note, Walternate. But yeah, so there was I'm not sure I don't remember off the top of my head which one wrote it, but I feel like it is our version of Walter, like the regular version that wrote it.
Because he goes to his typewriter, and like one of the letters is out of alignment in the exact same way that the manifesto is. And maybe Walternate also has a typewriter that's broken in the same way in the other dimension, much as he had a son who was broken in the same way.
Yep.
But I think it is our Walter and William Bell. And William Bell might have cross-pollinated ideas between the two Walters.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, because it is this like preparation for this thing that he did for kidnapping his son from another dimension, that started the ZFT, that made them get all of these like strange experimental scientists, that made them be like, hey, there's that one guy that's maybe a little too extreme, we don't want him anymore. And that was Jared Harris's character in season 1. And so he's continuing this pattern of weird scientific stuff to get their attention and be like, look, I can do this stuff. Look at me, senpai. And yeah, that is what the pattern is in season 1. And then here we are in season 2. Them trying to figure out how to get to this other dimension, and figuring out that Peter is from this other dimension, stop these people who are supposedly coming from the other dimension, all that stuff. The shapeshifter, we have shapeshifters in this season. That's
they like
how this one kind of starts.
They connect your mouth. They like put a plug on the roof of your mouth. Like they're plugging in a hair dryer.
Yeah.
And they plug it back into their mouth, and they like vibrate and solidify into you. And you have to be dead for them to do this, which is how they get Charlie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Charlie.
Rest in peace, Charlie. He was one of the best of them. Yeah. We do see the alternate Charlie in the other dimension. That was neat to see him back. But yeah, the first couple ones of these, Charlie, like our version of Charlie, has died, and the main cast doesn't know it. And they eventually kind of figure it out. And it's Olivia is the one that shoots him and kills him. But it's this kind of traumatizing event for her that I like, hey, I just had to shoot one
Yeah.
of my best friends. And I think it is kind of a signal to them that, like, yes, this is a war. Like
Yeah.
things are happening that they probably don't like or won't know is happening just yet.
Mm-hmm.
But things are in the works. They're in place. People aren't who they say they are all the time. All
Yeah.
that stuff.
Which is a fascinating something I didn't think about is going to be in these characters' heads in season 3, where the season 2 finale is the wrong Olivia. Faux Olivia came back
Yep.
from Dimension 2, and she's taking Olivia Prime's place. If they've already lived like 8 months ago, they're like, they encountered a fake Charlie. How keyed in are they going to be to a fake Olivia?
Exactly. Yeah. Will that work? Will her infiltration be successful and all that stuff? Yeah. It's like that stuff is fun to watch. I like that stuff. But this is where my issue kind of comes in with season 2 and why I think it flounders is that the pattern was so interesting. That mystery of what the pattern was just like it. I was on I was sitting up, my ear, like, what is this? What is that sign? Why is there bones in that butterfly wing there on the little symbol here? What does this all mean? This was the show that J.J. Abrams started to make after Lost was a big hit, and so with such a fascinating mystery right at the start, like that's what hooked me. And season 2 kind of drops that and just doesn't talk about it again because technically they figured out what the pattern was. And so it doesn't really pick anything up after that. It's like, oh, there's a shapeshifter. That's weird. Okay, Peter might be from another universe. That's weird. There's the guy in the bowling alley. Okay. Like these are the things that happen, and then like finally at the end, it's like, okay, they go to the alternate dimension. They see all that stuff. It's just like individually the things that are happening, that we have a shapeshifter, that we have this cool new character at the bowling alley that seems to be psychic, but not really. He's just good at figuring people out and all of that stuff. And then there is the Olivia kind of figuring out a little bit more of her powers, and her realizing Peter is from the other dimension, and Peter realizing that he's from the wrong dimension, and all that stuff. Like, there's some good things happening with each of those things, but I think in comparison to how daunting the mystery of the pattern was, I don't think it stands up to that.
I understand. Yeah, they felt that season 1 had more of a investigative. Right. It's got more of an aim and a momentum to it, whereas season 2, because we've got more of the puzzle,
there's less of a driving force between it.
Yes.
They're still doing what they do, but it's just there's no behind it.
Some things are more normalized. Like after they see the shapeshifter, they're like, right, shapeshifters. Like they're more reactive. I understand that.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's still like, I don't think the show dipped in quality at all. It's still like, if you liked the stuff that was happening in season 1, this is more of the same. I still think it's a fantastic show, but like, it's just like, okay, if season 1 was at 100, this is at like 80, right? Like, it's still really, really good, but it's just, it's dipped down a bit here.
I think season 2 does so much to develop the characters. That does a lot for me. And we've got some really interesting kind of one-shot episodes. It plays a lot more with the variety of kinds of episodes we get. We have a flashback episode. We send the season finale in the alternate dimension. We mentioned the musical episode, which we'll talk a lot about later. We've got the episode that's Peter on his own.
Yeah.
I like this. I like that they've established enough of a form that now they can start deviating from and playing with that form.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. They have a little bit more space to work with. The characters are already kind of established, so they can then really get into what makes them tick and stuff like that. There's some really tragic stuff in there between Peter and Walter, and it's just like that I feel like is the driving force of season 2 is the like, what is the relationship between Peter and Walter, and how do they work? How does Walter really feel? What really happened between them? All of that stuff. And it's fantastic stuff. So
like the episode with the people coming over on the boats from China that are like gestating like monsters in them. That episode as a whole, like that mystery isn't super exciting to me. But what is exciting is the B plot of Walter trying to be more independent, do more things on his own.
Yeah.
And he's like going out in the world, like running errands and stuff without Peter. And they're still worried about him. So they're like, okay, Astrid, go follow Walter. And while Walter is investigating this mystery, he's out looking for clues in this Chinatown market, and Astrid's secretly tailing him. They get into a scuffle, and Astrid gets really hurt. And there's a scene between the two of them at the end where, like, he goes to see her, and she's all bruised, and she's like trying not to cry, and then she cries, and they hug each other.
Yeah.
And then Walter's like, I can't let this happen ever again. I'm going to install a tracking chip in myself, so Peter can always find me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just like he has a weird way of expressing himself sometimes, but it's like you can tell that he's super thankful that he's out of this mental institution.
Yes.
That he really, really loves Peter, that even though he can't always get her name right, that he really cares for Astrid. He really likes Olivia. Like he has this like comfortable family life that he really treasures and values between all of them here. And when he realizes that maybe he can't remember a certain thing, or him not remembering, or him just he's just not necessarily capable of doing certain things by himself or in a way that he thought he could do it. It's tragic to see him just be like, I screwed up. I'm so sorry. Like I didn't mean this. I didn't want this to happen.
And it's mistakes from decades ago that are coming back to haunt him. And his brain his memory is so addled. He's been through so much trauma and change and healing that he's a different person now. But he's trying to like get back into the headspace of old Walter and apologize on his behalf. And he feels like even as much as he's grown as a person, he still has to answer for something he did in 1985.
Yeah, absolutely. To add on that, the last thing I'll say is it's also incredibly just painful and emotional to see him prepare to tell Peter that, hey, you're not from this universe. Like, my son actually died and I kidnapped you from maybe not in those words exactly, but right. Still, like to see him try and reconcile with what he did all those years ago and couldn't bring himself to tell Peter. And now he's finally trying to. It was just like, oh, Walter, my heart.
Especially when Peter does not take it well. He is furious and he leaves for, I I don't know. He winds up in Washington, like Washington, the state. He's gone for like 2 or 3 weeks on this soul searching mission where he's not telling anybody. He's not calling Olivia to say, hey, I need some time alone. Hope you're doing well. Don't tell Walter where I'm at. No, radio silence from Peter. Which is so painful because I think it's such a conflict for Walter and Peter and Olivia this season that they have formed this family unit.
Right,
the 3 of them and Astrid and Broyles and Jean the cow. And that's such high stakes for all of them. All of them have these moments where they're like, I feel like I should do this, but what will that do to my family? Walter's like, I've just gotten Peter back. I haven't seen Peter in 17 years. And it's right to tell him the truth, but am I going to scare him away again? And the same thing with Olivia. Like, these two have a happy relationship that they've never had before. Am I going to tell Peter he's from another dimension? Even Peter's like, I wanted to kiss you, Olivia, but then I thought, what if this doesn't work out and what we have falls apart? I don't want it. I don't want to run that risk.
Yeah. They're just fantastic character moments in this. A lot of great moments.
Yeah.
So first of all, we'll get to the music one in just a sec, but what did you think of the like alternate 70s style of the opening credits the flashback one?
I love the 1985 opening credits.
Right.
Because the main opening credits have got these keywords of the titular Fringe science where it's like ESP, hive mind, cloning,
telekinesis,
and the ones for 1985, there's still some of those sci-fi things in there, but it's also stuff that we do have now, like in vitro fertilization, personal computing.
It reminded me a lot of the opening credits for *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Yeah, yeah.
It's real like synthesizer heavy, real retro computer like. Yeah, just big like 80s sci-fi synth stuff, and it's just like, oh man, this is perfect. They changed the font to it's still like digital like computerized font, but it's one of the ones that it is a little bit less square and is a little more funky.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the funky computer font.
I don't know the name of that typeface, but it's one
You'll
recognize.
Yeah,
and it's just like it's so cool that they did that, because it's so just like, oh wait, this is new. What are they doing here? And then
this is.
I was just gonna say, and then they do one at the finale when they change it to the alternate universe one, and instead of blue, it's red. So that was neat.
This is the first procedural show we've covered in our monthly ongoing series format. We've talked about other procedurals before, but it's on our regular review show episodes where we're just coming in for season 1, and next week we do something else and we don't go back to it. So it is fun to see this style of a show that has longer episode runs. These are like 20, 22 episode seasons that has more of a repeated pattern through it, and how with a structure like that, you are aware of the pattern fairly quickly. And I like that it is midway through season 2 where they're like, you know what this is. Now it's time for us to start playing with it. Now it's time for us to start surprising you. That's been a lot of fun going back into procedural television, which I haven't watched in a long time.
Sure.
The format of TV shifted to these limited series or these seasons that are like 8, 10, maybe 12 or 13 episodes, and they're
higher
longer episodes, but shorter runs.
Seasons.
Right. Yeah. More serialized, where the thing feels almost like a very long movie that's just been segmented into episodic lengths. This is it's got all this ongoing mythology. There's a lot of plot going on, but it is very episodic. And there's a thrill with that where it's like, oh, it's this episode. It's the one where this thing happens. Like, before we get to the musical episode, I do want to talk about the Peter and Olivia romance, because we didn't touch on it much in the first episode. And that's becoming a very big foundation of what the show's doing right now in terms of the character arcs.
Mhm.
And one of the important milestones was the virus episode.
Indeed.
Because which is one I really enjoyed overall. I love that the opening is Walter teaching his own science lessons to kids in a science museum
Yeah.
that nobody has asked him to be at. And Astrid has to go in there and get him out.
He gets banned right from the museum. Like,
they revoked his season pass.
Yeah.
Don't teach the kids about ancient maritime disasters, please, sir. But Peter and Olivia go into this office where this office building where a man has shown up mysteriously sick, and then they find out it's this dangerous virus, and they have to quarantine the whole building, and they're stuck in there with each other. And there has been this recurring emotional theme where Olivia is very emotionally guarded and emotionally restrained. That's one of the core elements of her character. She's the woman who laughs, she smiles, but she always has a brave face on.
Mhm.
She doesn't let people see her scared. More than that, she has become so practical and such a protector figure that a couple episodes later in Jacksonville, she's like, I don't know how to be scared anymore.
Yeah.
I turned that part of myself off years ago to do this job, to protect people.
Good point, yeah.
And it's this big emotional milestone for her and Peter's relationship, where you can see how well he's gotten to know her, when everybody in this office is quarantined in there and they're all calling out to their families, and Olivia's typing on a computer trying to find some records or something, and he's like, hey, do you want to maybe call and tell your sister what's going on? And Olivia just keeps talking about the case, and he rolls his eyes at her for a second, classic Olivia.
Yeah.
This is what she's gonna do. And later, when he's like, are you sure you don't want to call Rachel? And she's like, oh no, Rachel's been through so much, I couldn't worry her. And he's like, no, I'm not talking about he's like, why are you worried about what Rachel is going to feel? Aren't you scared? Don't you just want to tell a loved one that you're scared? And he's like, what's the point of you taking care of all these people if you won't go to them when you feel like you need to be taken care of? And I think it's a really great moment where he's like, Olivia, you can open up to me. I am your friend. I care about you. I am here for you. But he's also like, just open up to anybody. You don't have to talk to me. You have a sister I know you're close to. Talk to your sister.
Right. Yeah.
I love that.
She almost has this optimism in a weird way. It just in the sense that she's so stubborn that she thinks everything will work out. But not in a gee, I'm so cheery and happy and everything will be sunshine and rainbows. She's just so head down, focused, walls up, guarded, that no, I will figure this out. I have to do all that. And so it, in a weird way, it ends up in this false optimism. That's not, it's a weird way to describe it, but just
where
so
she's
stubborn.
She's like, no, I don't need anything. I'm fine. I can do this by myself. And this goes back to in season 1, where she tells the story of how she took out a shotgun and shot at her abusive stepdad when she was 9. And he went to the hospital but didn't die. And she's like, I regretted not finishing the job. I regretted not killing him. Which has not been brought up again. But you've got that in your mind when you look at Olivia, that at 9 years old, that's the person she was already.
Yeah.
And I think that's also the first episode where it's in, I don't know, the first half of season 1. And her and Peter develop a decent rapport early on. They're antagonistic at first when she has to go get him out of whatever con man scheme he's in. And he's like, you want me to talk to my dad? I hate my dad. Pretty soon they're like, okay, you're pretty good at this. You're an interesting person. I respect you. I enjoy working with you. That's the episode where she tells him about trying to kill her stepdad, where he looks at her different, oh, I get you now. You're the person who will do anything to take care of somebody else, and you really don't watch out for yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like you need somebody to watch out for you, and I'll do that for you. And yeah, I like this virus episode because it's like, it reminds me of going back and watching the X-Files, where there were like all these Monster of the Week episodes and all these mythological like plot arc episodes. And then like a couple times a season, you'd be like, ah, yes, it's time. It's time for the relationship episode. It's here.
Yeah.
And I like that that's what this episode is. It's a cool mystery. A lot of the characters get something to do. Like there's sweet stuff between Walter and Astrid, where Walter's hands are shaking so badly while he's trying to like do these experiments to cure this disease that could kill Peter.
Yeah.
And Astrid has to like reach out and like hold his hands holding the equipment. And when they lock down the building, Broyles is talking to some other government agent, and he's like, there's people in there who are like family to me. Which is a beautiful statement from Broyles. We don't see any affection from him, but I like that he still knows that, and he still states it factually. Those agents are my family. I am here to watch out for them. Yeah, but I like that it's like, this is what the episode is for.
Yeah.
It is for advancing the Peter and Olivia dynamic.
Yes.
And like this virus is transmitted through like fluids. So if like the sick person like coughs up blood on you, like if you get the blood on you physically, if it touches you, then you're sick. And this happens to Peter. And then he like tears his sweater off and he's just wearing a tank top, which is another thing like, yes, it's time for the shirtless episode.
Like we live in a shirtless episode, right?
Right. The fact that he's wearing a tank top is shirtless enough for the for the constructs of this show.
Yeah.
Again, we live in a new era of entertainment where everybody is so hot and so fit all the time, and there's so much like guys are always shirtless.
Yep.
Think of how many like we just watched the trailer for the new Thor: Love and Thunder trailer where he's like stripped down to his butt. Yep. Like this just happens all the time. And we've shifted back into this era where it's like, oh, those two characters looked at each other and he's only wearing a tank top now. This is special. This doesn't happen all the time. You get this once a season.
It's like, whew, is it getting hot in here? I'm
not talking about it in like a sexual way. It's not like it's sexually exciting. It is plot development exciting. It is character development exciting. You're not like, oh boy, I get to see Joshua Jackson wearing only a tank top. It's like, oh, Olivia gets to see this vulnerable new side of Peter. And because they're in this situation now, she's more vulnerable than she's ever been before.
His shoulders. Oh my God. Talk about breaking down walls.
I literally wrote in my notes, Peter's tank top carries a lot of symbolism. Because because it is this breaking down of barriers. And like that's the only time this happens. Right.
Taking
this is a pretty
Yeah,
and this is a pretty like sexless show, which I kind of admire it for, that it's got this tone that fits it really well and it sticks to it. There's never anything that's like sensational or gratuitous for the sake of that. In season 1, when Olivia has to like soak in the sensory deprivation tank, she strips down to her bra and her panties, but in a very like practical way.
Yeah.
This is not meant to be titillating. Nothing in this show is ever tittillating.
Yeah.
He takes his shirt off. It's like, wow, this is a true moment of character vulnerability and intimacy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. To me, it was interesting to see, like, to more so see Peter. And I don't know if out of character is the right word, but the virus also makes people more aggressive because the virus wants to get outside. And so in this like almost like zombified way, like they have this one singular goal is to get outside. And so here is Peter stripped down to his tank top, like trying to manipulate his way. But you can just see, like, as he gets more and more infected, his brow gets more and more furrowed. He gets more stern, and then like he almost gets out, and they stop him, and you can just see him go off. He's mad. He is furious, and it was just like, whoa, okay, hi, hello there. And that was interesting to see, because Peter's also a very like level character. Like even when he is displaying like happy or angry emotions, it is within it's very metered, right? Where it's like, all right, you live your life here at this part here. Most people might leave that when they are overly excited in some way, but you're containing yourself, which is, I think, why he's so good at like conning people and conning his way into this school and that school. Like he knows how to conduct himself very particularly, which is neat. So,
and I really do like the relationship between him and Olivia, where you're right, he's very level-headed, but when he has emotions, he expresses them. He's got all these sarcastic quips, but the sarcastic quips still display how he is truly feeling. You know, when he's frustrated with Walter, he says that. When he's worried, like, he says things. He's fairly open, which is in opposition to Olivia, who will just like if Walter says something gross, she'll just sort of like squint slightly, and Peter will be like, come on, Walter. Like, she's always got a smaller emotional reaction to everything than he does.
Yeah.
And she's so guarded and walled up and like, I cannot be vulnerable. It is, I am supposed to be the strong one. I hold everything together. I protect people. I've always done this since I was a kid. And he's the one trying to break through to her, like, it's okay if you're scared. You know, you can admit things like this. We can talk about this.
Yeah. So there you go. Musical one here.
Wow.
That we got. How did you feel? What did you think?
I vaguely remembered this episode. I know definitely all of season 1 and like parts of season 2 of Fringe. I was in college. I was very busy. I remembered that this was an episode where Walter was telling a story, and it was these characters we knew that was in like a 1940s noir. I remembered that, and I remembered like a couple songs, but watching it again, I'm like, this is way weirder and is a lot more stuff going on than I remembered. It's like a multi-era jukebox musical. There's so many. I forgot about like the fairy tale element where Peter literally opens up a little door in his chest where a little mechanical heart lives.
It's so wild because it's one that Walter is telling the story to. I don't remember her name. Olivia's niece.
It's Ella, which is so funny that like Olivia. This is after Peter has run away. The way this episode begins is like you hear this bubbling noise, and you're like, oh, I see where this is going. They're going to make us think this is a bong, but then we're going to cut to it, and it's actually going to be a piece of scientific equipment. No, it's a bong. Walter's just like so upset about his son running away that he does a massive bong hit.
Just needs
he
to
listens
relax.
to some prog rock. He's like, I'm going to label everything in the lab. And then Olivia's going out.
Organizes things.
Right. Which is what I would like to do. We should all have a day like this. Very, that's self-care. Walter knows. And Olivia's going out to like find a lead to try and track down Peter. And she's like, my sister had to go do something suddenly. I have to watch my niece. Will you guys watch him? She brings him into the lab. Like, Walter and Astrid will watch you. Mostly Astrid will watch you, and Walter will just also be here. And they've clearly met before, where Ella's like, Uncle Walter. And Walter's like, who is this?
As he does with most people, though. But,
right.
Yeah, so but he ends up like trying to entertain her with a story. And so he is starting to weave this like fantastical, or not even fantastical, but this like 1940s crime noir that is just this metaphor for what's happening in modern day times for like him losing Peter. He can't find him. His heart is broken, all that stuff. It was his mistake. He he wants to be nice and liked by everyone, but he's actually this like evil scientist, right? But then she's just kind of confused by his story. And like, why is it like this? Like that's not how stories go. Because she's used to all of the like Disney like fantasy. Like, no, it starts with like once upon a time, and then it ends with they lived happily ever after, and like all that. And so she starts to infuse her own stuff in this story, and that's how it gets to be like, oh yeah, and he has this mechanical heart, and he opens up this, and he has this thing, and like all that, and like they can each have a piece of the heart, and they'll both work because it's magic, and they lived happily ever after.
Yeah, that's all Walter, but his version's sad, and Ella's like, no, I'm not letting it end like this. Yeah. We're gonna take that magic heart, we're gonna break it in two, and you can both have a part, and they're both gonna work.
Yep. Which is oddly like that one scene in Our Flag Means Death when the daughter breaks the petrified orange in half. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the weirdest thing to me in this episode, that's the most I've ever seen Lance Reddick emote.
He's so fun.
Anything, in any role I've ever seen him in. That is the most I have ever seen him emote. And it's creepy, it's weird, it's funny. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
I'm so happy that Broyles is part of this.
Yeah. It's so funny.
He gets to sing and like play jazz piano and smile, and like the actors will do such a good job of like going back and embodying the tone of that time and that period and that art form.
Yeah.
Sika Nicole goes full like musical theater, like the scene where she's she's left Olivia's detective agency and she's going to go find another job, and she literally sings "I Need This Job" from a chorus line.
Yeah.
Like all her mannerisms are such stage musical theater, which I think is the background she comes from, and it's delightful. I love that episode. I love all these little subtle, like big or subtle things everybody does to their performance. Like Joshua Jackson is like smoothed out Peter's mannerisms enough to get back into this like 1940s like smooth, slick-haired movie star, and he's chewing on the toothpick, and that's such a I love the episode. I love that it gets to be so many different things.
Yeah.
Like Walter imagines himself as this Candyman. Not Candyman, the guy with a hook who will come kill you if you say his name 5 times. But like he's there to bring happiness to children. He's working through like like stealing Peter from another dimension, and when he did to Olivia and all the other Cortexiphan kids. And his vision of himself as a man who really makes people happy, has made the world better, who helps children, to the fact where he's literally invented hugs and rainbows.
Yep.
Those were him. He did that, a Walter Bishop original. He invented the hug. He's got it sketched out in a notebook. Like, this is how you do it. Step 1. And I love that when you go there, like Jean the cow is there, but she's covered in polka dots.
Yeah.
And his lab's got all these weird, like, it looks like the parts of a Spencer's Gifts that aren't sex toys and Rick and Morty t-shirts.
Yeah.
Where it's just like neon lights and like things that spin, and like one of those globes where you touch it and your hair stands on
the
it.
electrify thing. Yeah, that's all those like weird like sci-fi gifts from like the Sharper Image catalog.
It's like he took everything.
Yeah.
It's like he took everything he saw in the gift shop of that science museum he was banned from.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
I forgot that part of it. I love how many different kinds of weird are in this episode. It's like, what if it was a noir, and what if it was a musical, and what if it was a fairy tale?
But what if he's kind of like Willy Wonka? But what if he did, like, instead of candy, it's just like the Sharper Image catalog.
And to go back to what I said earlier about what a kind of sexless show this is the hottest episode. Nobody's hotter than 1940s Detective Olivia. Like, I like that this is when they put it in. This is when there's like everything feels charged in this one episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun stuff. It's interesting because I don't know the history of doing stuff like this in TV, in like a cable network
Yeah.
TV show. I'm sure it's been around way longer before this. I'm not super familiar with any shows that did it before this, at least off the top of my head.
Oh,
Um,
Buffy's got a pretty famous musical
Yeah, see, I
episode.
never
Xena has a
watched
musical
Buffy. I've
episode.
never even heard of Xena.
Xena, the warrior
Xena.
princess.
Okay, I've heard of that one. Never. So like, see, that's my point. I know it existed before that. Like, this is not the first one here. But this is kind of a thing that happens in a lot of shows nowadays, right? I think even to the like DC Comics CW shows,
yeah.
they do this every now and then. They'll have one where they like go back in time, or they are telling a story, or the Flash and Supergirl have a crossover, and it's a musical. Because Grant Gustin and Melissa, I never know how to say her last name, Benoit, something like that. They have musical theater backgrounds because they were in Glee and all of that stuff. And so, yeah, they have these things where they just say, and it's just this completely different style, different tone, but it breaks up that pattern that you've probably gotten used to. It's a fun thing to watch. And it's interesting because anime does the same thing almost. They have the like hot springs episode. They have the like all that stuff where it's like, okay, it's maybe a filler. It's like the episode right before the penultimate like 2-part finale thing here. So the characters just go on vacation, right? They go to the hot springs, and it's just this like completely has nothing to do with the plot. It's just the characters hanging out, having fun. Maybe there's some Peep and Tom moments there, and it's just like, how dare you? Why are guys all the same? And like it's the exact same thing. No matter what show it is, it's that. And it's the same thing with this musical. Like, no matter what show it is, it's kind of the same thing where they're like telling a story, or it's a flashback, and they had like they reimagine them as these like 1940s detectives. It's a crime noir because everything looks neat in a crime noir, right? It's just it's really interesting to think about traditions like that, if that's the right word, in television.
And again, like, as a procedural episodic show, the first one we've talked about in a while, I loved getting back in this space because like Mr. Robot is a show that did a lot of genre and format breaking episodes, but because that was a shorter show, shorter episode runs, that almost became more of the like artistic makeup of the show as a whole, right? Or something like Maniac. Like, there are shows that do this, but as part of the direct makeup of the thing, I like that in these longer, sprawling procedural shows, you can do weird stuff for like 1 or 2 episodes a season, and like, which makes it more special when it's like, yeah, most of the time it's like case of the week, but this week we're in for something wacky.
It's a musical.
I like it. You know, this sort of scarcity of strangeness makes the strangeness so much more valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good one. I liked that one a lot. But I wanted to talk about the finale, when we finally get to go to this other dimension, and we get to see the Fringe division on that side of things here, because this, in the universe we know, they're a unit on the FBI, but they're not as official as the one that we see in this alternate dimension. They have like trucks and vans with their logo on it, and they're all official. And
in our universe, you get the impression that nobody else in the FBI really knows
Actually
that there
knows
is a
that they
Fringe
exist,
division,
yeah.
like never hears about anything that they're doing. Especially because I think this season they moved from filming in like LA to filming in Vancouver.
Probably.
And I think they lost the FBI set. Like at the beginning of the season, instead of going to Broyles' office, they have to like get a coffee with Broyles and walk around a public park, which is very funny. But yeah, nobody really knows Fringe Division in our world, but in Earth 2, they're celebrities. They're like X-Force or something.
Yeah. Because that world is it's interesting because they have a lot of science stuff that we don't. Like they're more scientifically advanced. But then there's a line in there that I think Peter says, or no, that Walternate says to Peter that like, hey, but you guys have like engineering and like architecture stuff that we don't have. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but like there is some like more just like physical engineering, hardware, manufacturing, like that side of things. You guys have that. So
we have coffee. They don't have coffee over there.
We sure do. Yeah. Which is interesting that like a whole plant either like does not exist or got wiped out somehow.
They have it. Well, like this is what
scarcity.
Peter's mom mentions. Like Peter, like we have coffee, but it is a luxury here. It's very special that I give you coffee here for your first day back home in 25 years.
Yeah. But yeah, like they seem to like be a little bit more public with these weird science happenings. They kind of have to be, right? Because I think it was the Madison Square Garden whatever is like completely encased in amber, and a few thousand, 100,000 people just like they've been stuck in there. They've been legally declared dead, but they just don't know how to fix it, so they just left it.
Right,
which is weird, haunting, and just. Ugh.
I do love the world building of Universe 2. In that, yes, they do have so many advancements, but it seems like their advancements have had darker repercussions. Like the I think there's a scene where they go to the hospital and they're there to like find Walter, who's been shot. But when they're walking past the like check-in desk, this nurse is talking to like a patient who's trying to check in. And she's referring to this chart that we don't see. But she's talking to this patient like, how big were the bees? Were they this big? Were they bigger than a grapefruit? They don't even talk. It's just a throwaway line. They don't even talk about the grapefruit-sized bees that are in this world.
Yeah. And yeah, there's just lots of little differences, whether it's small or noticeable or just strange, like those big bees there. But yeah, they do have this kind of darker repercussions, as you said, and I think that leads to kind of a more militaristic feel, especially when we meet Walternate and know that he's the like defense minister or whatever his position's name was there. Like there is that, like that's why the Fringe division seems more tactical when they go, like they kind of have to get this down because things are potentially more dangerous in a strange way there. But yeah, we see like the team on the alternate dimension is not the exact same team in the one we know. They have that one dude who was one of the Cortexiphan kids, right? When he was
Lincoln
younger.
Lee.
Yeah. He's in there. But that's kind of the only like major difference is that he like that there's more people included in that team.
Like the main team is him, Olivia with her bangs and her like Kim Possible cargo pants. Bald bug infected Charlie. I like that as the mirror to the episode where there was a monster like gestating in him. Like this Charlie got like some sort of bug infection in him, and now he just has to keep living with it.
It's not worms.
I do like that. Yeah. I think I like the tonal difference, whereas our main Earth One Fringe
more
team.
aloof.
Yeah, like they're less emotionally open, but they love each other so much. And we go to this other one and they're like more quippy, more conversational, more jokey, but it does not have the same family feeling at all over there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like getting to see that alternate dimension. I like that we got to see William Bell again in the finale. That he's still kind of this like weirdo mystery in all of this show, because he goes back and forth. He lives lives on both sides and manipulates things, and they actually have a confrontation with him on like, hey, the good that you think you're doing actually isn't doing as much as you think it is, right? And he's still just kind of going back and forth that he can't really see it exactly, but he still wants to help. Like he still has good intentions, but it is this idea of like, yeah, how much has he influenced this alternate dimension? How much has he given them? How much has he misdirected them? How is he trying to sabotage them? Because there's that whole thing of like, oh, I'm the one that designed the guns that like all of your Fringe division has. I only gave them the 76 model. I have the 77, and it's it has all this stuff. And he just has these like little like one-ups on all of them, which is interesting to see and think about, especially at knowing that he helped write this ZFT manifesto to be like, hey, there's a war coming, and it seems like he kind of took it upon himself to go behind enemy lines and go undercover, kind of, but in a way that is maybe causing problems every now and then. So we shall see. But I like this alternate dimension. I like getting to see it a lot. It's good.
I want to shout out some of the pop culture differences between the two universes. When you go over to Earth 2, Eric Stoltz still stars in Back to the Future. He has not been replaced with Michael J. Fox, which is a very infamous what could have been story in pop culture. I think this is a marquee on the movie theater that the observers are walking out of in the Peter episode, in like the 1985 flashback.
Gotcha.
But in the finale, when they have that big fight out on the city street, like out in the background, you can see a theater marquee. And I paused it and I tried to read what the movie titles were. And some of these I'm not exactly sure on. I couldn't see them that closely. But we have Star Wars Legion of the Droids.
Interesting.
Yeah. Especially from J.J. Abrams, who would go on to direct 2 Star Wars. Neither of them called this. Maybe he's got a third one in him, and it's Legion of the Droids. Indiana Jones and the Hex of the Hydra.
Interesting.
That's the one you can see the clearest. I'm very intrigued by whatever that would be. And then Superman versus Batman 2, a rematch. And this is the blurriest. I don't know if I have.
When did I Am Legend come out? What year was that?
Oh, I don't know.
Because
I am leg. I am 2007.
So when did this finale go on TV?
Oh, I think like 2010.
Okay, so interesting, because that was the Easter egg in I Am Legend, is that he's driving down the city and there's the logo for Superman versus Batman. And everyone like was like, oh my God, are they making this? Like, what's happening? And it turns out they kind of did make that. But then that means there was a Superman versus Batman 2 in this. Interesting.
I didn't realize that. That's so fun. And then I think another one of these movie titles, as far as I could read it, is Splash 7. Splash, the romantic comedy where Tom Hanks finds a mermaid swimming in a swimming pool. I love the idea that they made 6 more in a franchise of this one romantic comedy.
That's funny. The ones
and then when we go...
Oh, go ahead.
When we go to the sort of apartment safe house where they take Peter, there are comic books on the wall.
This is the one that I focused in on. Yeah.
Right. I knew you would have, you'd be able to see more differences than I could, but there is Red Lantern and Red Arrow.
Yep. Red Lantern and Red Arrow, which is a spoof on the Green Lantern, Green Arrow comics back in the day. There's also it's a spoof on The Dark Knight Returns, but it's Superman.
Yes, I did see that one
in there. They have one I couldn't see what it was changed to, but the one that they're spoofing is a Justice League International comic. And then there was one that I couldn't see. That's like farther back there. But yeah, those were the ones I was like, ooh, comics. Oh, those aren't our comics.
Exactly.
But I know what they are.
I love how much world building they put in this alternate dimension with the threats like the grapefruit-sized bees, with the pop culture differences like Eric Stoltz and Back to the Future. And with every difference they apply to these characters. I love that faux Olivia says she doesn't drink, like she doesn't like alcohol. Because our Olivia never drinks excessively, but she's drinking frequently. Whenever you see her going over case files, she's got a glass of whiskey with her. She's always drinking wine with Rachel. She goes out for beers with Peter. She'll have a beer with Sam at the bowling alley.
Yeah.
That's frequently like a piece of business they give her to do. In some episode in season 1, Peter goes to her office at the FBI and they're talking about some case that's really strange. And he's like, "Woof, I'm going to need a drink to deal with this one." And she's like, "File cabinet, bottom drawer." And he's like, "Oh, okay." Pulls out another bottle of whiskey.
Yep. Yeah. She's so. Last thing I'll say, kind of for this, I guess it's not really for this season, but for Olivia in general, this is interesting. I really like Anna Torv as an actor. I think she's fantastic. Her character of Olivia is really interesting to me because I find myself wanting to use the word butch to describe her, but I don't know if that's the right word. However, she is very like masculine coded in the way her character works, because she is this like walls up, like not vulnerable character. She drinks every, like, again, not excessively, but she is very stern.
Right.
She is the protector. Like she is this more masculine coded character.
I understand. Yeah.
But she is still very feminine in her own way. And she's not a lesbian in this show. She's not bisexual in this show. At least I know of or remember. But like, right. Like she is not those things, but has these very masculine kind of qualities to how she conducts herself.
Yes. She's a lot like other male. She's a lot like other male detectives on TV.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which I like. Like, you imagine maybe she is being somebody who had stepped into a protector role for her family so early when she was so young. Maybe all of these macho detectives have informed her throughout the years, you know, and like they mentioned a little bit in season 1 that she is one of the few women that are in her position. Maybe she has just sort of modeled herself around who she's around the people she looks up to. Yeah. It is interesting.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't think I have seen another woman on TV drink as much whiskey as she does.
There has to be
a very masculine beverage of whiskey.
There you go. Yeah. Season 2 was good. A lot of fun. I think it lost a little bit of that mystery, that magic that
I
drove
understand that
season 1, but still season 2, I think, was pretty good.
Yeah, I want to say it about the season 2 finale. I was expecting this to be another step in advancing the Peter and Olivia romance. I watch these things like it's sports, like I'm watching steps in a playbook or something. This is what happens when you grow up watching a lot of X-Files. And then other stuff like Bones or like Castle that have this like
draws on it.
This mismatched male and female investigative partners. Will they get together? Like it's a pattern I look for. And I look for, how do you do the classic steps? How do you deviate? What are your moves? And I was surprised that they kiss in this finale. It's a really beautiful moment from her, who is somebody who is so guarded and keeps her emotions like so distant and so in check, that she goes to him. And it's like, she's like, this is my last chance. I have to lay out all my cards on the table. Yes, you need to come home because you have to take care of Walter. We need your help investigating things. But more than anything, we belong together. I need you to come home.
Yeah.
It's very a very, very romantic moment. And I think it was the right move to give us something that strong when the stakes are so dire. Thinking about how many times this season they've been looking down at each other in hospital beds. And like both they almost die, and then Peter disappears for weeks, and then she's to go get him back from an alternate dimension. And then to have that,
that happens.
And then she's in an alternate dimension for who knows how much of season 3. And then for them to be separated again. It's a very compelling step. I'm happy that they made this advancement when they did, and they didn't continue to keep that just out of reach. I like that within the spans of like 10 episodes, we get the part where they almost kiss. And then when they do kiss, they do come back to that. They're like, no, that was a good idea. We should kiss.
Yep. Good stuff. Well, there you go. That's our thoughts on season 2 of Fringe.
I've got one final question I'd like to pose to you.
Go for it.
Are you aware of the McDonald's alignment chart?
No. I would.
Okay.
So you put this on our list for the captain's log this past week, and we never really got to it.
I thought I would bring it up to maybe save time here. The McDonald's alignment chart is, imagine you're a parent driving around and you've got a kid in the backseat and you drive past a McDonald's and the kid's like, McDonald's! I want a cheeseburger! Are you going to get McDonald's? Are you with the kid? Like, yeah, McDonald's! Or are you going to be like, no, we have food at home. We're going to go home and eat our food. Or are you, as inspired by the John Mulaney stand-up bit, are you going to go to the McDonald's, pull in, order one black coffee for yourself and nothing for the kid, and then drive off? It's like a chart. It's a triangle, and you can map where you are. And there's a scene, like, at some point in season 2 where, like, the gang is driving together in a car, like, Broyles is driving with, like, Peter and Olivia and Walter all in this van, and they reminded me so much of a family unit, and that's what I pictured. So I've been thinking about, clearly Walter is the kid who's begging for McDonald's.
Absolutely.
I think Astrid would get him the McDonald's. Yep. And I think Peter's like, we have food at home. I'm not taking you there.
See, I think Olivia is the one that is like, no, I'm not taking you there. And
I've
Peter
gone
is
back
the one
and
to
forth.
just get the black coffee because he's the one that he is the oddball that is like very adept at what he does. He's super smart, but he also just doesn't want to be there. And he does his own thing. He conned his way into MIT. He'd be the one who's like one black coffee and then leave.
See, I went back and forth on Olivia because she's so inscrutable at times. But I think about what a guardian she is and how much she really tries to take care of people. I feel like if Walter was like, Agent Dynamite, I want a McNugget, she'd be like, all right, I'm getting you that McNugget.
I can see that if she's in work mode, in job mode, which she usually is, then I can see her just being like, yes, get him whatever he wants. Yeah. She she's maybe more so the like babysitter to like in this sense of like, I don't understand you. But I
Right.
know you're super smart and you're a genius. So if you say you need something, I will get you this thing here. But not in a way that's like, oh, I love you. Let me take care of you. I'll get you anything you want. Right. It's just a like, I don't understand. So if you need it, sure.
Right, exactly. I was going to say Broyles is the one black coffee, but then I think about how many times he does like kind of put his career on the line to like get something for the Fringe team that they say they need. So I don't know. Maybe he is a McDonald's dad.
Maybe he
I
is.
feel like Nina is a one black coffee, and Sam Weiss definitely feels like a one black coffee to me.
I have to say he's maybe my favorite character in the show. Period.
Fascinating.
Yeah, just the like wise old sage that works at the bowling alley and just speaks it like, how do you know you're not psychic? But he's just like, no, I just can read people really well. That's it.
And I love that we're introduced to him through Nina, who had her, and we see that she lost her arm by it going through a portal in 1985.
Yeah,
and the whole cancer story is fabricated as a cover story and to like help William Bell and Massive Dynamic look good. She's always playing that public relations angle. I like that she says, this is the man who helped put me together again, like not medically, but emotionally.
Yeah.
He helped me a lot, which is an interesting angle. It's a moment of sort of vulnerability that we don't normally get from Nina Sharp. And you're also wondering, like, okay, that was in 1985. How old is this guy? Was he like 13 working as a pin boy or something at this bowling alley? When did she encounter him?
He was working at the pizza stand that
right.
now he owns the whole place.
Yeah. And he has been a helpful character. So you see that Nina was sincere in telling Olivia, if you're having a hard time, go talk to this guy, which is, I find it fascinating that Nina is aesthetically a supervillain, but is actually a pretty nice lady. She's normally on the side of the Fringe team. Like she keeps a lot of secrets and she's a little manipulative, but she is not usually their antagonist.
Yeah.
She typically is an ally to them.
Yeah. She's an obstacle, but not an
antagonist.
Yes. So
exactly.
There you go. We did kind of circle back around to talking more about the show, but that is A-okay.
Yeah, I needed to communicate the McDonald's alignment chart because it has been on my mind a lot over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to think about it more for every show we do.
Good stuff indeed.
That's my test.
So bingo, I believe, is next.
Bingo!
Let me open up bingo here on my screen, and then let me go ahead and hit the bingo button as soon as come on. There we go. All right, let's hit the bingo button.
Say it with me.
B-I-N-G-O.
Well done, just like a pro.
Cool. Okay, we got our bingo card pulled up on screen here. I like to play bingo here on the show. All sorts of different movie and entertainment tropes.
Uh-huh.
We don't have a Superman analog or a ghost or a reaction of an animal to judge trustworthiness.
One thing I definitely have is Small Time Detective in Over Their Head.
Yes, I have that as well.
Episode where Peter goes off to Washington, which is an episode I really liked. Like that character, that Detective Mathis that he was interacting with. She feels so rich. She almost felt like this was a backdoor pilot for another show that they wanted to make.
Interesting. She felt more like an X-Files character to me.
Very X-Files.
It felt a little more dated in that sense, but yeah, I liked it. It was an interesting addition to the show for sure. Okay, small town cop in over their heads. No spaceships, AI, no meeting yourself thanks to time travel.
Yeah, you meet yourself, but not thanks to time travel.
Yeah.
The time travel part's integral.
Do we have any kind of begin human trials?
Again, I don't know if we literally have that, but we spiritually have that.
Okay. So what do we want to do with that one? Because this is also one where they take Olivia back to like figure out more of her powers and stuff like that. They do start working with the other survivors to kind of train them to use to control their powers, and but they like that's not the beginning of those human trials per se. I don't know. That's still one I feel like let's hold off for now.
Yes.
But we have it spiritually. So if we decide by the end of it, like if we've still not gotten it literally at the end of the show and we want to include it at the end, then I think we can. But I'll hold off on it for now.
Do you remember if the 1985 episode had a needle drop of the time period?
Ooh.
Because I feel like it did, but if I'm not remembering it...
Not a recognizable one.
Right. It wasn't signature enough. It wasn't like we go back there and then we hear Tainted Love by Soft Cell.
Right. Yeah. I don't remember a particular song being played. I don't know. Interesting.
I think I'm done.
Yeah, that might be it for bingo this week. So we got that small town cop detective in over their heads. I think that's a good addition. That also brings me one step closer to a bingo. I just need to meet yourself thanks to time travel. That's the one that I need to get me a bingo.
We did have a good time travel episode this season, but nobody met themselves.
Yeah. And they, of course, I guess Walter has not come into contact with Walternet, but they're not time traveling to meet one another. So, oh well. Okay, that being said, that's it for bingo. We would typically do our recommendations at this time, but however, when we do our end of the month special, we save those for the first time we cover a show and the last time we cover a show. So here we are in the middle of that, and we won't be doing recommendations this time. Which means we can get straight on to what we're covering next week.
Yeah.
We already did the pitches last week, so we already know what we're covering. For this next week, we are reading the first 5 volumes of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Great name. It is a manga that is available on Comixology Unlimited. Like I said, we are covering the first 5 volumes. I have already read the first one. This is definitely doable within a week. So you guys should go check that one out and rate it and come back with us here on the show and discuss it. It's gonna be an interesting one for sure. So I'm looking forward to talking about it already. Good stuff.
Big year for slime.
Big year for slime. Cool. Well, I guess that about does it for this week here on the review show. So, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, show where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember.
And you guys can follow me at YoKyleSpringer on Twitter. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a foe, tell someone from an alternate dimension. That would help us out, spread the word, and we'd be super thankful.
Write it in a letter to your son and then burn the letter and then don't tell him about it.
Sure. That works.
And then he figures it out on his own that he's from another dimension and he needs to listen to our podcast.
Exactly. But yeah, that is about it for this week. So we will see you all next time. For that time, I got reincarnated as a slime. We will see you all then. Bye.
Bye.